Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we are so excited to have Yanely Espinal on the channel today. Hopefully she's not a stranger to most of you. I've been on her show before. She's an awesome podcast slash YouTube channel that she runs. She is amazing and we are so excited to have her on today. You've probably seen her around the internet street. She's on CNBC's Financial Wellness Council, all kinds of great stuff that she's doing. So we're excited to have her on and chat a bit today about managing finances, especially as we're going into the new year here. So Yanely, welcome and introduce yourself to the people. Anything else that I might have missed?
Oh, thank you for having me, Akiva and Mishak. I'm so excited to join you guys. I always tell people if you have student loan debt, you need to watch the Bemused. Their channel is so good for student loans, especially your one video that is just popping off about how to pay them off in a quick time. It's just such a great resource. But yeah, I'm excited to be here. My name, as you said, is Yanely. I have a YouTube channel called MissBeHelpful, which I started many years ago when I was just dipping my toes into the world of money and personal finance. And I just wanted a place to go and talk to people about what I was learning and about what I was doing because I realized that like my family and my friends didn't want to hear me talking about money all the time. So I was like, I think I need my own little, space for this type of conversation. And then it just kind of started growing naturally, which was shocking to me at the time. I was working in the nonprofit sector in early education, and I was a classroom teacher before that. So I've always kind of been an educator and a teacher at heart. And so the channel kind of became a place for me to teach people everything that I learned and just to be a space for like financial education without like, constantly feeling like somebody's trying to sell you something, because that was something that I was frustrated with about YouTube. Was like, I always felt like people were trying to sell t-shirts or courses or something. And I was like, that's fine. I understand everybody got to make money. But at the same time, like, can people feel like they're coming here really just to create a community and learn? And so that's really what I focused on there. And then the last thing I'll say is a lot of people think like you go on social media to try to like quit your job. So like you could kind of be an influencer full time. But it's so funny. My story is the total opposite. It's like goes in the reverse direction because I actually got my full time job as a director at a nonprofit that focuses purely on personal finance education because of my YouTube channel. So it went the other direction. I started YouTubing as a hobby, as just a side thing, and it led to me being, to have a really good career path and be able to do a role in my company that I really love. So just an interesting little fun fact about my YouTube journey.
Yeah, so you've given us so much there. I don't know if there's anything else to add, but my first question was going to be, how did you get your start in the personal finance arena?
Yeah. No, you know what? It's a good question because I think it's important for people to know that I started as a teacher first. And
Mhm.
with me, that meant like elementary school. So a lot of people think teacher, you think like high school or even middle school, but I was actually working with babies. I taught third grade and fourth grade. So just learning to read, learning to write, learning about, subtraction, addition, multiplication, division, very basic stuff. I taught fractions, like, just really early elementary. But the benefit of me doing that was it really taught me how to take a topic that I feel like most people think like they understand these topics, but trying to break it down to the most basic so you can teach it to a child. Like if you can't teach you what you know to a child, then you don't know it well, right? Like, or
Mhm.
you don't yet have your teaching craft down. So it really taught me how to break apart topics into really basic building blocks, and then also how to teach in a really easy to understand way. And so that actually helped me to then say like, all right, after I read, I don't know what, 50, 60 books about money and personal finance,
Wow.
I felt like they all had the same type of vocabulary, technical terminology. It was all very dry. And I'm like, I feel like I can just take away all that, dry vocabulary, technical stuff, and just talk about it in a way where it sounds like how normal people talk. And so that people could realize this is stuff that we can talk about over lunch. This is stuff we can talk about at Thanksgiving dinner. This is stuff we can talk about on a day to day when we're texting, when we're, just talking. Like it should be more normalized. So I wanted to make it feel more normal by talking about it with normal everyday words. And that was really just me creating basic videos like how to understand your credit score and how to increase your credit score and what to look for when you're looking for credit cards. Then that led to like how to save more money so you don't have to borrow, how to pay off debt if you have debt, and what kind of strategies there are out there to pick from. And then as I naturally started to like get better at money and invest, I wanted to post about investing too, because I'm like, I want my channel to follow my journey as well. Um, so yeah, I just was kind of posting videos as I was growing and learning everything I was trying to, figure out. I would post about it. And then that grabbed the attention of a lot of different people, like companies that wanted to collaborate, people that wanted to, be on the channel. But for me, it was really important to just focus on the education, especially because I used to be a teacher. So when I found out about Next Gen Personal Finance, which is now my full-time job, they reached out to me and said, we're looking to create more videos and more activities and lesson plans that teachers can use. And I was like, boom, I think that's a great way to like bridge together, my passion for money, but also my expertise in education, which is what I studied and got my master's in. So it was like, it just made sense to like marry those two things in my work. And so I've been there full time since 2018.
Nice. What a journey.
So I have a follow-up question. So I guess, the commonalities that we have is just like you, we talk about money probably more than our friends and family want to hear about.
Yep.
Definitely, that's a fact.
So I wanted to know, how do you handle having these conversations, in your family, if culture plays any role in that with the way how they talk about money?
Yeah.
For those that didn't know, I also have a Hispanic background. And now for me, our family doesn't really talk about money. So I wanted to know what your take on that was or is.
Yeah. It's so funny. I was at an event recently where they asked me to speak. It was for like a conference to gather Latinas, women who are Latina who or want to invest. And one of the things I said there was this quote, which I don't know, Mishak, if you heard this growing up, but I heard this all the time, which was, las ropas sucias se lavan en la casa, which is dirty laundry. You don't air out dirty laundry, or like whatever dirty laundry you have, you wash it in your house at home. You don't take it to the laundromat. You don't. And it's funny because we never talked about that in the context of laundry or chores. It was always in the context of money. So like whatever stuff is going on with money that's negative, that's maybe shameful, that's a struggle, you don't want anybody to know that. You keep that personal, you keep it hidden, you kind of like sweep it under the rug kind of thing. Like you purposefully hide it from everyone. And that was really pretty much how the mentality was in my house. Always growing up was like, you don't talk about the fact that we're struggling. We don't want anyone to know. We're going to put on our nicest clothes and show up at Easter dinner acting like everything's great, show up to church on Sunday looking like we got it all together. Even if we are a hot mess and we desperately need help, we're not going to ask for help and we're not going to say that we need help. So in my family, that's pretty much what it was like. And we have a really big family. So I have 8 brothers and sisters, plus my mom and dad, and a bunch of nieces and nephews. So growing up in the house was like, we were always sharing things, fighting for things. And, it kind of just was, it goes without saying that we have to share things because we don't have enough money for everybody to have their own things, right? For everybody to have their own computer, everybody to have their own, whatever. We will always share everything. And I feel like that kind of created this sense of community. So it's just interesting to me how growing up, we never connected those two things and said, just how we have this sense of community and shared ownership for our things, shouldn't we do that for money too? Shouldn't we, create a community around money and talk about how we can help each other? But we never did that. So it was very taboo. And I think now that they've seen, my success on YouTube and like as a financial educator for being my profession, they're like, oh, can you help me? They're like, can you help me with my credit score? Can you help me apply for this loan? Like, now I think my family is more willing to ask for help and to like, just be a little bit more open to talking about money, especially because growing up, it was just something like nobody really talked about. There wasn't much money to talk about in the first place. But I do think if we had started the conversation early on, that we would have had like an opportunity to get ahead of it and actually like create some wealth, even if it wasn't a lot, right? We would have been able to take action. And because we never talked about it, we never took action, which I think is a big mistake. A lot of families, especially Latinx families, but families across the board tend to make that mistake.
Yeah, for sure. And I know you mentioned earlier too that you've read like 50 or 60 books on personal finance at this point too. That's still sticking out in my head because I have not read that many, and I'm a financial planner. So let me tell you, the book life, that's a very interesting life. But leaning on that wisdom, all the wisdom you collected over the years from those books, from your personal, professional experiences, what would you say are some tips that you have for the audience, people who might just be getting started on their financial journey? Maybe this is the first personal finance video they're ever watching, or they're just getting started. What advice would you have for them? Where would you suggest that they start?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing you have to start with is the why. I think the why is big for anything that you want to change in your life. If you want to change your health and fitness, you got to start with why. If you want to change your time management, the habits that you have around how you spend your time, you need to start with why. If you want to be a better parent, a better partner, a better daughter or son, like whatever you're about to change, embark on a journey to make change, you have to have a reason, a motivation to why, because there's going to be times where you're going to want to just hit that lazy approach and just not put in the effort one day or 2 days, and then next that turns into 10 days and 2 months, and now you're not making any progress. So you have to have that motivation to remind you on those days where you really don't feel like doing anything, and you just kind of want to be a lazy day. You have to remember that the why is so much greater than all the little parts added together. So for me, I would say that is the start, right? Like, why do you want to go on this journey to be better at money? Is it because you want to have a lot of money and you want to stunt on people? If that's why, it's okay, but you have to be honest about that, because there's a lot of people that are afraid to admit, I just want to be rich, I just want to have a lot of money. Like, it's like that, especially growing up with not a lot of access to money, you feel like money can be a bad word, like rich people are bad. And so honestly, it's not bad. It's not bad to say you want to have money to make your life a little easier and to be able to get nice things. But you have to admit that and be able to own up to that, and say it out loud without shame, right? For me, my why was really my family. I just kept watching my family struggle, my parents, my grandparents, aunts and uncles. And I'm like, at what point is something going to change? Something's got to give. In order for us to change the trajectory of our family's future, somebody has to do something differently. And then I just decided that somebody's going to be me. I don't want to make it normal to go into debt to buy Christmas presents. I don't want to make it normal to have a bunch of kids, but none of them have 529 plans. I don't want to make it normal to not know if I'm going to be able to retire because I don't know what I have saved or where it is, and not even be investing for retirement. So in my mind, I was like, that's the big why for me, is to change the path that my family is on, because I don't want to continue these negative cycles. And that why is big enough for me. There's days where I'm like, I really don't want to, like there's annoying things that we have to do. And there's going to be days where we don't want to do it. And on those days, I remind myself of that why. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing I would say is self-education. We could point our finger all day, like, oh, my teachers never taught me this. My parents never taught me this. I never took a class about this. I never read a book about. Okay, well, you're pointing all those fingers. Why don't you just look in the mirror and point at yourself first? Because you have to be the one to start saying, either I want to ask for help, or I need to go look for something that will teach me, a book, a course, a video, whatever. And all the time you're pointing at other people not doing anything. What about the actions you didn't take either? We have to take some personal responsibility sometimes too. So I think the self-education for me was like my key to freedom, to feeling like I don't need anybody to do anything for me, to teach me anything that I don't know. I can do things for myself, and I can teach myself anything that I want to learn. I can read a book about it. I can take a course about it. I can read articles online for free, watch videos on YouTube for free. There's really no excuse nowadays. If there's something that you feel like you don't know how to do, get up and get on the internet and learn. So I think that with money, that's especially true. But there is a barrier, because money is like another language. It's kind of like a foreign language. When you start learning, people start dropping terms, and like you're like, wait, what's that word? And now you feel like it's frustrating because you're trying to learn, but the words make it kind of impossible unless you know the vocabulary. So that's where I kind of came in and said, you know what, let me see if I can create some content that doesn't make it sound like that. It just sounds like normal people talking. And so if you can find resources that normalize conversations about money, don't use technical jargon, terminology, vocabulary that confuses you even more. Start with the basics. And then the last thing I'll say, the third tip I would say, is social media. Like, social media is huge, because you can read a book, but at the end of the day, if you don't feel inspired to put it into action, you're not going to do it. And social media gives you that community, that place to then go post about it and hashtag and find a bunch of other people using that same hashtag. And now it feels like, wow, I'm not alone. Like, and then you can talk about the books you read, and it just gives you instant access to a community of people that are working towards the same money goals as you. So you don't feel like you're just in the house reading by yourself, trying to watch a course by yourself. You get frustrated, you feel isolated, and then you're less likely to succeed. But social media allows you to apply what you've learned in books and in courses to a community instantly right on your phone. So I would say those are the three things: your why, you gotta do some self-education, books and courses, and then connect with the community on social media.
Ooh, that was a whole sermon right there. I hope you set it down.
Sermon. I took you out of church.
Go home, pick it up. Pack it up. That was so many great stuff in there.
But I really love what you said, because it's really important, like you said, to understand that why. And what I'm hearing is that really family is that driver, right? And for us, I would say it's the same thing, is saying, well, hey, it's got to change somewhere. So if it's going to happen with us and we're going to bring everyone else along, so be it. But trying to create that better future for anyone who comes behind you. So I can definitely relate to that. And I'm sure a lot of our viewers can actually relate to that as well.
Yeah, and I want to respond to just one thing you said too on the social media piece. A word of warning: not everybody out there talking about money on the internet is legit. So just putting that asterisk out there too. But definitely find those money mentors, those people on there who are trustworthy. You know, look into their background. Don't just trust every Tom, Dick, and Harry that got a mouth online. Look into their background. What do they actually do? What's their experience? What's their credentials? And make your decisions based off of that. And trust but verify. If you hear something from somebody, verify that with a couple of other sources. Make sure that what they're saying is actually true, so you don't end up going down a rabbit hole of something that is untrue, or that you turn out worse at the end of the day, because that's not what we want. So definitely social media is such a powerful place, such a powerful tool, and even down to us, we have a lot to say. We have, as educators, as professionals in the space, we have a lot to say, but trust but verify, even when it comes to us.
That's right.
So
definitely triangulate your data, people. Do not believe one person. Follow many people and look for lots of common information rather than just one source of information.
So as we come to the end of the year, another question that I wanted to ask are, what are the tips that you have for helping people check up on their finances for the new year?
I think a big piece is to just be real with yourself about your numbers, especially towards the end of the year, because you're starting fresh. And honestly, I don't like that our culture makes like New Year's or like this month, January, like this is the time for new something. Like every single day that you wake up, you have a new day to try to change something. But at the end of the day, there is something about the energy of New Year's, of a fresh new start. Like technically every day is a fresh new start, but like the fact that you're now writing 2022 on your piece of paper every time you write down the date, like it does something to us, and it psychologically does have an impact on us. And so why not ride that wave and go with that good energy? And your money is a great place to do that. So writing down all your numbers, like what is your debt amount? Do you know the total amount of debt you owe if you have debt? If you don't know your total amount of debt you owe, that is a great first place to start, because your debt is literally eating away from your net worth and the opportunity for you to grow your net worth. It's like debt is really only taking away from that. It's not necessarily holding you back, but it is kind of hurting you. It's taking points away from your net worth. So you have to know what that number is. And then you can actually see it and go, okay, now that I know what it is, now that it's not so scary and so mysterious, I can actually figure out what the best way to attack this debt is going to be. And I'll know kind of how long it will take me to do that if I go with, plan A versus plan B. But you can't really take any of those actions until you know your debt amount. And you have to know who you owe money to, what interest rates you owe, your minimum payments. I mean, these kind of like basic details about your debt, you got to know. You should also know your net worth, even if it's negative. It's okay. It's all right if it's negative, because at the end of the day, net worth is not about where it's at. It's about where it's going every day. Even if it was negative 100,000 and now it's negative 50,000, amazing. It's negative, but wow, look at that progress that you've made. And that's what you want to focus on. So I feel like debt and understanding your net worth are two big numbers that really matter. And then, of course, a good number to look at is your credit score as well, because if you have big goals like, getting a house one day or investing in real estate, maybe even buying a big ticket item like a car, like getting a new apartment, like these are things that your credit score is going to have a direct impact on. And there's a lot of crazy people online saying, oh, your credit score doesn't matter. But listen, it matters. Unless you are rolling in the dough and you can pay for a house with cash or pay for the car with cash, your credit score is going to matter. So these are just know your numbers. At the end of the year is a great time to just kind of go through them, list them out, know what they are, and have a fresh, clear picture so that you now know, okay, what steps should I take? Do I need to increase my credit score? Do I need to ask for higher credit limits on my credit cards? Do I need to, what actions do I need to take? The only way you're going to know is if you know your starting point, where you're at right now.
Awesome. Well, this has been so much fun. I wish we had all the time in the world to go even further, but I know we got to keep it short for the people. So thank you so much for being here. Before we go, please let everybody know where they can keep up with you.
Yeah, so all right, y'all can find me on YouTube, MissBeHelpful, MissBe Helpful. Also my website, MissBeHelpful.com. You could join my mailing list there, and I don't tend to send a lot of emails or anything, but when I have events or if there's like viewings or anything where I'm part of it, I'll usually send an email to let people know about those types of things. And then I am writing a book. So in 2022, I'm
Wow.
going to have a book coming out, which is called Mind Your Money. It's the same title as my podcast. So if you want to find my podcast, Akiva has actually been a guest on it. My first year of episodes focused on women's stories, but I am going to expand it. And I would love to have both of y'all back to eventually talk about your couple's journey with money. And just my goal with the podcast was really to just focus on underrepresented voices. And so I started with women, but eventually I do want to just highlight all of the folks that are coming out of the struggle and trying to show other people how you can do it too. Because I think that's the important thing that's important for money and people starting with money is to feel inspired by other people's stories. Like, if they're like me and they did it, I can do it. And so for that, we need more representation. So yeah, Miss Be Helpful on YouTube, my website, book is coming out, podcast. Follow me on all those places, Facebook, Instagram, all those things too, of course.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again. It's been so much fun, and we will talk soon.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, y'all, for having me.
Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell so you never miss when we post new content. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.